Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that little display. I just sort of quickly did a little bit of a lance up. I guess might even be a little bit more than a lance, depending, this weekend, just to get my Battletech going. I still have a number of mechs to paint, but I'm going to be moving on to some other painting projects, but I got these guys painted up just so I can start playing the game a bit. And so as I kind of said in a prior video. And so I'll just talk a little bit about what I ended up doing here to get this sort of effect. I'll maybe zoom in on the grasshopper. It's funny, I did really enjoy painting these. I wasn't so sure at first what to expect because I've never painted a Battletech mech before. But these are really enjoyable to paint and to pick out the different panels and things. I think an example of that might be the Awesome, just to show what I mean. But there is like a lot of cool ways, details, and ways to choose your where you're going to put your secondary colors and things. And I really enjoyed it. I thought they really are nice designs. I know they're really old, but I really enjoyed it. And I really in particular like the grasshopper as well. So what I ended up doing is I undercoated the entire model in a very dark brown after a black primer. So I used a burnt umber. And then from there, I did some highlighting, just zenith highlighting with the airbrush of a brown. So this was a GW Mornifying Brown. At that point, when finished with that, I picked out the gold and I used Metal Color Gold by Vallejo. Now this is extremely thin, so it really does lend to being able to, you have to be very careful. I used a very thin, small brush when applying it because it'll go everywhere. It has like a very good capillary action effect. But so it covers extremely well, it's extremely bright, but you just have to be very careful when using it if you've never used it before. After using the gold, I took a 4-to-1 mixture of Mornifying Brown and Ivory, which gives it almost like a pinkish brown look. It doesn't look great, but I put it on the raised surfaces, like things like right there, as compared to here. And then I went over it with a Mornifying Brown glaze, diluted down extremely thin. And then in some cases covered it more than once. And that actually, I think, gave me a little bit of a brighter raised surface look that I was looking to achieve. Lenses, I just used a dark red and then just a lighter red. I think it was GW's, I don't remember, I use it all the time. It should be right around here. Oh yeah, here it is. Mephiston red, right? And then I just used a little bit of Ivory and even highlighted it up a little bit more. And then when finished with that, I ended up doing an oil wash. I used a black oil paint with mineral spirits and diluted it down really thin and covered the entire model. Then went back with a Q-tip and wiped it all off. That's what gives it gives a nice finish in general. It gives you a lot of the black outlines on things that you get. It's a very easy technique, even if you're a little hesitant to work with oils because maybe you're more interested in, more familiar with acrylics perhaps. It's a very easy technique, but I think it gives it a really nice finish and really great for a model like this where you have a lot of these panels. And yeah, and so then when finished with that, I used well, in the very end, I didn't really talk about the base, but in the very end, I used a satin Vallejo finish on it. It was even more glossy before than it is now. Now, I'm actually planning on doing a lot of outdoor games mostly, and like for mats and things, so I give it an outdoor base, although that's always difficult because eventually I'll probably use them in an urban environment and it won't match the scenery, but no biggie. I sculpted this base with just a epoxy sculpt and just give it an irregular looking base. I used wog flesh from GW to give it a very sort of, I guess, toned down, dullish looking green, which I like for this. After doing that, I used a bit of GW Shoppy Bone dry brushed on here, which made it a pretty extreme white in some spots, but then I used a Vallejo Model Wash dark green over it, which gave it a bit of a brilliant, I think, sort of highlights, you know, on the base. Some really nice green with having that bright color underneath. And so in the end, I didn't put flock or other things on the base purposefully because, to be honest, this is a scale that I typically don't play in Battletech, and in order to use flock and structures and things on the base itself with the model, I'd probably have to have some things differently than I have, because I don't really want to use 28mm bushes and grass and things on something that where people are like that tall. Because for those of you that aren't familiar with Battletech, I mean, this is I believe it's 6mm scale, and so your guys are really small, your people, and if I start using 28mm stuff, I just think it's going to be out of proportion. And so I actually preferred a little bit of a plainer base. I did the sculpting of it. I think it looks nice. It is, you know, definitely not filled with stuff, but these guys are supposed to tower over the battlefield anyway. So yeah, so that's my little sort of chat on just how I ended up doing it. Quite pleased. It didn't really take me very long to achieve this effect, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. And so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.